everyone. Like, you know, I really love this size of the clicker. Like the first time I see this thing, really tremendous. I even killed someone if the questions will be not that good. So about the questions, you can see this link on the screen. So you can just scan it with your iPhone, Android, and ask the questions online. At the end of my talk, I will open up the screen and walk through these questions. So please go ahead. Check this. I also will show you this link a bit later, but still, you will be prepared. So today I will talk you about the machine learning usage and how we use it within our tool, which is called the report portal. I will also show you what is the report portal itself, highlight the main features and how we use it, how it grows. So let's switch to the presentation. A few words about myself and what I do. My name is Dmitriy Gumeniuk. I am from the EPAM Systems. It's located in Minsk, Belarus, but the company is really huge around the globe. So I already 13 years within the practice. I started as the Java developer from the ground up, from the junior developer to the team lead. Then I had the experience to work with the test automation at the scale of 120,000 of the automated test cases. A nightmare, but still, all this experience brings me a lot of insights, ideas. And what I do right now, I'm heading the development of the tools and accelerators within Test Competency Center within my company, helping out to grow the test automation expertise and the overall practice we have around it. I also have own conference, which is called DelEx, which stands for the Delivery Excellence and focuses on test automation and DevOps. Well, you may ask yourself, where is the Belarus itself? It's not really far away from here. It's not even the small country itself, so just 2 hours, 2.5 hours to fly from here. And the best thing, few words about our country. So we have own kind of the Silicon Valley within our country, which grows pretty fast. And I would say that right now we do pretty big amount of the Commonwealth for our country doing the IT things. And also we have pretty super special conditions for the different startups. For instance, we have the zero tax for the blockchain companies. We also have the zero tax for any cryptocurrency earnings. So basically you can earn as much money as you want with cryptocurrency and paying zero taxes in our country. So basically we have a list of 200 more special conditions for the startups and IT companies within our country. So that's just a few words about my country. Hopefully the guys will let me in on the border after this presentation. Just kidding. Well, EPAM itself. So does anyone heard about the EPAM? Yeah, I see the hands. That's good. So we are already a pretty big one. We have more than 34,000 engineers in 27 countries. And the best thing which I loved about EPAM, we have the competency centers. So what is the competency center? You know, that's the thing you can find in Google, and we do the same. We actually have the kind of the collaboration of the experience and the experts, engineers who worked in the practice, who worked in the hands-on with the test automation, and we have in the thousands of the project collect the best experience, worst experience, faults, gaps, and all the information we can collect from the production projects. And what we do, we aggregate this experience in order to create tools, accelerators, and something which will fill the gap and help you to speed up the delivery and test automation and DevOps. So we also focus on everyone speak about the AI, or sometimes we just call AI. The AI in testing and test automation. So we also to have the information to understand how it works, to understand what's available on the market already. We make some researches, audits to understand what's available. And shortly we can summarize that these 13 points are usually addressed by the competitors on the market, by the companies on the market, where they try to build the AI. But the main issue about that is like the AI itself is pretty big. We have like AI, machine learning, and deep learning inside of it. And basically, in most cases, which we found, like not every company use it in the way how they should use it. They just do the regular pre-coded or rule-based decisions and solutions and call it as machine learning, which is not really true. So, but still, we can find, and based on my own experience, I can say, like for instance, here we see the self-healing algorithms for the test automations. Like 2 years ago, only one company of 10 can claim that they have the self-healing algorithms. Nowadays, almost like every single company has own self-healing algorithm, as well like we do, but we don't call it ML or AI, because it's like basically the comparison of the DOM structure you have. This thing also will be open sourced pretty soon by our company, so stay tuned. So you can just add this small thing into your Selenium-based test, and it will heal your test during runtime. So basically, if you have the wrong locator which was broken, this thing will find the proper one and replace it in runtime. Good, I think, pretty useful. So going forward, the report portal. So here we have this story. It started 7 years ago with the idea that, guys, we need something to implement in order to fill the gap for each of the projects to have the robust and standardized reporting. So it also was like outcome of my experience with like hundreds of thousands of the test cases, how to collect and understand the results of all your test automations. So what we did, we started to implement a small thing which collect the results in runtime, store it in your database, and help you to visualize and track the things you have. So 3 years ago, we did open source this tool completely. It's completely free to use, no any restrictions or limitations. All the functionality is available, and it still continued to grow pretty fast within the community. So at the moment, we reached almost 300,000 of the downloads through the Docker, and it still continued to grow. So like this is our landing page. You can find the information about it here. And shortly, I will describe you what it does. So we understand it as a single entry point for the test automation results, and you can send any type of the results into it. So basically, it can be the UI tests, API tests, even unit tests, any kind of the Selenium-based test. The first Selenium I said today, because we had Selenium camp. Come on. So even the functional test can be reported into the report portal as well with some workarounds. So it also can basically aggregate and acquire all type of the results from variety of the available agents, and I say commonly used agents. The list of them is growing. You can find it still on our landing page. Some of them made by the contributors, some of them supported by our team, but still the list is growing. And please welcome. You can contribute into the open source if you want. One of the benefits, the key benefits we have in it, it's a real-time reporting. So what it means, as soon as you start your execution, you will see the results within the report portal just in milliseconds. And in case you have pretty huge amount of test cases, which should be executed for 6, 10, 9 hours, there is no need to wait. You have the early reaction because you will see that your tests, for example, started to fail in a second, not in an hours, not on the next day. And it really saves the time. Also, we have the Open API, which is used for the seamless integration with your pipelines, with your test automation. You can grab any data from our database through the API. You can do a variety of the queries, selections, and use this information, for example, the form go or not go decision within your pipeline. Looks like I should speed up. Hold on, guys. Fasten your seatbelts. Integrations. We have the integrations with the Jira and any different types of the bug tracking systems. We also have the integration with the Source Lab for the version 5 for the report portal. Hi, Marcus. where you are. You should love it. And having all this information in database will help you to keep the eye on the QA metrics. So basically, you can visualize the status of your test automation. You can visualize how the things is going on. And this thing is really loved by the managers. They don't need your numbers. They need like widgets and graphics to see how the things is how things are going on. And the report portal helps you to make it out of the box, like nothing to make, like just you do your regular stuff, you analyze your results, you make your test cases, and the report portal show it to the manager in visualized way. So like, woohoo, the managers are excited. Now, I would say the cherry on top and the main topic of this particular presentation is the machine learning. So machine learning helps us to save a lot of time and reduce the effort of the test automation team in result analysis. So how we do it, how we understand the flow. Every day when you execute your results, you have the passed and failed test cases. What the report portal does, it marks off all the failed test cases as with the to investigate flag, which means that engineers should pay attention to those particular fails. What the test automation engineers do, they analyze those fails. So basically, they open up the failed test case, look through the stack trace, and can see you like, okay, that's a product bug, that's automation issue, and here maybe the system issue, like your environment was not ready, your virtual machines was unstable, you still do not use South Lab and have unstable environment. So once the engineer made this analysis, they create the training set for the machine learning. And we use this training set in order to make this analysis instead of the engineers. So how it works, once again, we have failed test cases, which is analyzed by the engineers. They mark the reason of the fail, link the bugs, have all this information. And within the tens or like couple of the weeks of your executions, we have enough data to start use the machine learning, which will mark your fails automatically. So once you have the new execution with the fails, it just will mark up what are the product bugs, what are the test automation issues, and where are the system issues. So that is the juice. Do you love it? Woohoo! Yeah, come on. So the best part, it's trained by the humans, it's trained by the engineers. It uses the lazy type of the training. So basically that means, I will show it like a bit later, but it means that it uses only special conditions which are related to your project, not to any other projects. So even you have it's results from Ruby and Python are different from results of the Java. So that's why you have to have separate training set for this. And in case we use lazy learning, we train only on your particular results within your project. So here the short overview. This is how the report portal looks like. Just like few highlights what you see on the screen. So we have the project spaces. So basically every single project separated one from another with the levels of the permissions of the access. You see the section for the dashboard, launches, filters, debug mode. And right now on the screen, you see two launches for one particular set. That's the demo data, but still, this is a particular set of the test cases executed one by one in a sequence. So basically, you can understand it as yesterday you have executed section number 9. Today you have executed test from execution number 10. And what you see in the line 9, that those issues which was failing previously was analyzed by the engineers, and you have no items in the state of investigation. Let me start it. So what I show here that I point out that, okay, we have execution 9, 10. The execution 9 is analyzed. We see the distribution of the issues, like once again, it was made by the engineers and no item to investigate in previous run. But for the latest execution, we have 70 items failed. And now what I do, I will just go within the particular test case execution. So here I can say you that the report portal stores the results in the same structure, like you have all your suites, subfolders, and the final element will be the test case. So once you have executed and reported the result, you will have all the related sec trace, logs, screenshots, the binary data, anything which is related to your execution, even basically like payloads which you send from the browser to the server can be also added within these results. And right here, you see the line, we call it the history line, which shows you what was the states of this test case within the previous executions. So no need to spend the time and find it somewhere in Jenkins. You just like in one click can accept the previous results and see what was happening previously. So what I do right now, I copied the name of the test case just to find it within our latest execution. So we see that it's currently have the flag to investigate. I open up, I see the logs for the latest execution. I also can see the stack trace for it right here. Like this stack trace is pretty equal to the fail that's happened within the previous execution. And as I told you, with this history line, I see what was the state for the previous execution, which was number 9. And we see that it's marked with the CRT, which stands for the critical bug, critical product bug. So what I do right now, I will go to the level of the all executions, show you that we have execution number 10. And what I do, I just call the analysis function. Oh man, no. Let me just scroll. So I tried to stop it and say you that nothing fancy happens on UI for the engineers in this case, because the only thing you do, you just click the button analysis. And all the magic happens on the background. The machine learning start to work, analyze the fail, compare it with the existing multidimensional space of the vectorized text to find the item. So let's back to the presentation. So now I just executed the analysis, refresh the page, and what I see that 39 of the test cases was analyzed and marked as a critical issue related to this particular latest execution. So what I'm doing right now, I just go back to this particular test case, showing that it's like the same name, open it up, and see right now it marked as a critical bug as well. It has the flag AA, which means that this item was analyzed by the machine learning. It also has the history, and it tells you that the machine learning have analyzed, set this particular issue details. Here's the link to the item, which is considered like the equal item of fail. Sorry. So once again, we are in the same test case, and what did report portal? It analyzed the latest fail based on the history of previous executions. Now, when you have all this information, basically we analyze all these fails. We have the distribution, and all the fails are marked by the engineers, which one related to which type of the fails. What it gives to us, we have the so-called distributions of the fail. What you see right now on the screen, like on the right side, is the regular view of the majority of reporting systems you can find. So they just show you that you have green and red test cases, sometimes gray. But if you have those red test cases, do you have the idea why they're failing? Most likely not, because you have to spend the time to understand what's the reason of the fail. And with the report portal, since the engineers can do this categorization, and later machine learning can use this information to categorize those fails, you have the trend on the left, which shows you the distribution of the reasons why your test automation is failing. So basically, you see the red line, which are related to the product bugs, and that means that that's the value of your test automation. Because why do you need the test cases which are failing because of the system issues? Because they do not test anything. like the test cases which are failing because of the automation issues, because of the locators, I don't know, they still do not have any value for you because they do not test. So those tests which have been failing because of the product issues, those are the fails which have the value for you, for your project, and for your automation. So as I said, we have a lot of information in database, and we can build variety of the widgets, graphics, like show you the most flackiest, the most failing tests, I'll group it according to different rules, summarize. So basically prepare the best information for your manager so they will be super excited, like, woohoo, I have the reports. The best thing for it, like you just create it once, create this dashboard, share the link with the manager and forget about it. Because he can open up and see results even appearing here in runtime. So that was the report portal. I can, like, if I have a time, I will click it more. But now let's switch to the technical part. How proceeded. So how it looks like. First of all, we remove all the preconditions, all the articles, like everything which makes the English text became even worse. And for the next, like right now we have the clean text, which is, I would say, pretty ready to be very fond of work with the text. They can work with the numbers. So if you want a machine to make something, just give the numbers for it. So that's the approach how you work, but it's simple. Well, so now we have the ratio for this particular term, which can be easily set it into the vector. So how it looks like, we have the accel for invalid void term or for the hair, and the ratio of it or size of it should be like 0.06. For the next term in this line, we do the same and have the value as quarter of like 1. So now this term, like now this vector, or basically vectorized representation of our text should be appear within your multidimensional space. Are you getting this, guys? So, and for instance, we have this type of the vector placed within this space. So once we have, like, let's correlate it with test automation. So once we have our failed test case, which is marked by the engineer as a product issue, that means that this particular size of the vector in multidimensional space belongs to this particular position, and organize this dot, which like equal to our product issue. With the next and every single execution and with every next single, that comes like because in majority of the cases, test automation related issues, they have the particular set of the terms which is related to test automation, product bugs called the KNN lazy learning. The KNN stands for the nearest neighbors, which means that it still belongs to the same sequence of the test or group of tests or launch of the test, the priority for this item should be higher. At the same time, we have some boost priorities for the items which was analyzed by the engineer instead of the machine, and some other small tricks. And the main one is must. So what must be in this response? It should, like, first of all, it should have the log error. It should exist, like the issue type should exist within it. And we also ask you like to give us more like these fields with the cosinus distance as 10%, which can be translated into the minimal should match 90%. One with the highest rank and put it into an analysis. Done. Okay. So here's the link to our landing page. You also can find the link to the GitHub right from this screen. Also, you can find me in majority of the social networks as GH Dmitry and ask the questions. And for the current presentation, Now let's just skip it. Auto-analysis does not work in default installation described in this site due to Elasticsearch issue. Could you add more info? That's the thing which Simon said. When you work with the open source and with the big community, your skin became too thin to accept all these questions, because we still have the instructions which completely describe this issue and the steps you should do. But we all engineers stop the production-ready Elasticsearch. So in this case, it just will work. Once again, we have these steps for it at landing page. How you can compare the report portal real-time capabilities with continuous testing in Azure DevOps portal. I have no idea what's the Azure DevOps portal. Who asked this question, please find me after the talk. We will have the discussion about this. Is there a way to push test results in predefined test execution, which is created by API? Yes, it is. And for the version 5, we will simplify this approach. Talks which states like should be true but found false. Even engineers cannot understand what's the debate about. So